Today we are going to be picking the rest of the sweet and hot peppers out of my high tunnel, bringing them up to the kitchen and preserving them for the winter. We're also going to take some watermelon that I picked out of the high tunnel the other day. I was able to grow watermelon successfully in my northern garden here in British Columbia, Canada. So I have a couple of watermelons that we are going to turn into a watermelon lemon concentrate. And I'm very excited about that because I haven't done it before. And then we're also going to talk about how to deal with green tomatoes. As you can see here, I have cleared out all the tomatoes out of my high tunnel, and those tomatoes are now up in my kitchen. I have some green and some that are ripening. So I'm going to walk you through the whole process of how I deal with those. But first, it is the perfect day to be doing a little bit of work down in the high tunnel because as you can hear, it is raining, so it's kind of cozy and it smells really good in here. So let's get to work and get all of these cleared out. And if you are new here, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Let's get to it. The peppers this year were a little bit lackluster. Last year was my best pepper harvest ever. We picked hundreds of pounds of peppers from the high tunnel, but this year we had a really cold spring and the peppers did not like that. And they have started producing now. And I have some nice looking peppers on the plants now. Look at this, friends. We have little baby peppers here. It is the end of September right now, and my pepper plants are flowering. It is so bizarre. Up in the garden, I'll show you this in another video just because it's raining too hard outside to actually go do anything outside. But I have poppies that are sending up a second flush of flowers, and my dahlias are still blooming beautifully. I checked back, and last year we had a killing frost on September 1st, which is pretty normal for us. We'll often get a light frost even in October. And as of right now, which I think is around the 27th of September, we have only had 2 very light frosts. They didn't even kill off a lot of the stuff in the garden. So I am getting an extended time in my garden, which I am quite happy to have this time of year. Flowers still blooming in the garden, which is just wild. So this is a really good example of how the pepper plants did. So I just picked those 2 peppers off down here, and I've picked maybe 1 or 2 peppers off of this plant earlier in the season. And then nothing up here and some babies trying to come on right now. So that's kind of been the story of my peppers. The reason that I'm picking these all, even though we haven't had a hard frost, we don't have any freezing temperatures for at least the next week. It's supposed to rain for the next week. There is the possibility that we could end up getting an outlier freezing night, and then all of these pepper plants, oh dear, that one doesn't look very good. All of these pepper plants being killed. And because peppers are so sensitive to frost, a really hard frost would ruin these peppers. So I'd rather kind of rescue what I can out of the patch now and just get the rest of the high tunnel cleaned out and ready for winter. The majority of the plants on this end are California Wonder, or I think it's called King of the North or something like that, a northern pepper. And the California Wonders usually do pretty well for me. So this one looks good. This has got lots and lots of peppers on it. There's one that was considering turning red. Red one that has started to rot on the bottom. That's unfortunate. This one is a new one. This is Jimmy Nordello that I have never grown before, but they are such a beautiful pepper, and they're actually a sweet pepper. What I'm considering doing with these is smoking them and adding them to my homemade paprika. Aren't those gorgeous? Now these ones look like the Jimmy Nordello, but they are not. I do not know what they are, but these ones are extremely hot. Super happy with the way the cayenne peppers grew because I've already harvested a ton of them and made some hot sauce. We'll talk about the hot sauce and I'll show you what I ended up doing with the peppers when we get up to the house. But really happy with the cayennes. I'm gonna grow more next year for sure. Old laundry baskets are the best harvesting baskets ever because they're nice and light. I planted somewhere around 100 pepper plants, I think, somewhere in that range. And I got this big bin of peppers there, the little one down there, and then 3 other good size bins of peppers out of this row throughout the summer. So I don't think that that is too bad. Nowhere near what I got last year, but better than none. All right, so I'll meet you back up at the house and we will get to preserving this and all the other produce that I have in the kitchen. All right, friends, here we go. Let's get all of this food processed. We're going to start with these beautiful watermelons. These are watermelons I grew in my high tunnel. So happy with them. So when I picked the first one that I wanted to test a couple of weeks ago, I picked it too early and it wasn't quite ready, but we've had multiple watermelons since then. There were a lot more hiding in the high tunnel than I knew. So we've been eating a lot of watermelon and they have all been fantastic, but we have had our fill of watermelon now. So we're going to turn these into a watermelon lemon juice concentrate. On the pH scale, watermelon runs into the low acid range. So it is around, I think, between 4.8 and 5.3 on the pH scale. So we do need to add quite a bit of acid to it in order to make it safe for canning. And the way we're going to do that is by adding the lemon juice. So this is going to give us a lemon juice watermelon concentrate, which I could use to make some watermelon jelly if I wanted. I might end up doing that depending on how much of the juice we actually get out of this. So there's a couple of different ways that you can go about juicing watermelon. One is you can just run it through your, cut it up into chunks and run it through your blender and then strain it through some cheesecloth. That is the best way to get kind of the most concentrated flavor. What I'm going to do today though is use my steam juicer back there. So we put our fruit in this little basket and then we add water into the bottom of our juicer and that water sort of cooks the steam once it's heated up starts kind of cooking the whatever fruit you have in there, and then the juice from that goes down into the middle reservoir over there. So that is what I have decided to do with this. Ooh, did you see that crack? To do with this watermelon. I will say this was an interesting education growing my own watermelon. I learned a lot about how to be able to tell when a watermelon is truly ripe. Look at how ripe and beautiful that watermelon is. It smells absolutely incredible. So there's a few things that indicate that this is a perfectly ripened watermelon. One was the way that it cracked open when I cut, when I cut into it like that. The other is that the seeds are mature on the inside. Most of them are nice and black. What I used to do to be able to tell if a watermelon was ripe in the grocery store is I would knock on it. That sound that you can hear there. But what I have found to be more effective, and this was a tip from one of you, is to actually slap it, kind of slap it with your hand like this. There's something about the way that both the sound, but also just the feeling of it, where I'm able to now tell if it is ripe based on that. There's a couple of other indicators. The stem drying out is a very helpful way to be able to tell. This actually has some sheep's wool from my mulching in my high tunnel on it. But the stem drying out a little bit. There's also a little tendril a couple of inches up from the stem, and that will start to die back and dry out. But I didn't find that to be the most effective way because even when it was completely dried, the watermelons still weren't perfectly ripe like they are right now. It was more when the stem really started to dry out. But the best was this. I don't know if you can't feel it. Unfortunately, you can't feel the feeling. There's a certain kind of vibration in it that indicates that it's ripe. So these are just beautifully ripened watermelon, and I'm so excited that I was able to grow these watermelon in my northern garden. I'm so incredibly pleased. Look at how red that is. Smells so good. So what we're gonna do here is cut the red part off of the rind. And I'm sure I'm going to be asked this, whether I'm going to be using the rind to make pickles. Because watermelon rind pickles are they're actually a very old-fashioned type of pickle, but I'm not going to. And the reason for that is because we have tried it and we did not like it. None of our family really liked it. So, you know, I think because these are so juicy, I'm gonna grab the reservoir and actually just put this over top of that. So any of the juice that's going to drip out is going to go into that and I don't lose it. So yes, you can make pickles out of the watermelon rind. It's a bit of a process to do it. You need to peel off the green part off using a potato peeler, peel that off. And then you need to soak it for 24 hours in your fridge or overnight at least. And then you go through the pickling process. So it is a little bit of a process to do it, but kind of a fun thing to try. We just weren't big fans of it. Now, you might think that I really love watermelon based on the level of enthusiasm I've had throughout the summer being able to grow it here in my high tunnel, but I'm actually not a huge fan of it. However, I have lots of people in my family that are, and that's one of the reasons I was so excited. I don't mind it, it's just not my favorite. Not really necessary to chop it up, but it allows for a little bit more of the juice to be extracted from it a little bit more readily. Juicing with the steam juicer like this only takes around an hour, probably even, whoops, spraying myself, probably even less time with this watermelon because it is so juicy. I did, I think they were called Sugar Baby, and those were the dark green ones, and I really liked those ones. This one was called Cal Sweet, I believe, CALSWEET, and more of kind of your typical watermelon. I did find the little dark green ones were much sweeter than these ones. I think I'm gonna get a fair bit of juice out of this, which is great because this is just one watermelon and we're getting close to being filled up here. And then we have to deal with all the peppers. We have peppers on the floor there. We have peppers in the bin right here. Okay, let's cut this one. I am going to be, with all the other peppers, I'm just going to be dicing them with my dicing blade, my food processor, and freezing them. It's my preferred way of doing it. I have done freeze-dried peppers before, and it hasn't been my favorite. Just find that frozen, oh, I didn't get very much flesh off on that one. I just find that frozen works better in most of the recipes that I want to be using peppers for, and they freeze really well. I actually have some peppers left in my freezer from last year. We had such an amazing harvest last year that I still have some, which is pretty awesome. That's the first time that's ever happened. But they still work perfectly fine in like chilies and chicken fajitas and any recipe that I'd want to use them in. So that is what I'll be doing with all of the peppers over there, all the sweet ones. I was thinking of trying my hand at making some jalapeno poppers, which I have never tried before. So we'll see about maybe making a few of those today as well. So all of this rind is going to be going out to my compost pile, and my cows and my horses are out there in that pen where my compost pile is, and they pick through my compost pile and eat whatever they like. And I suspect that they are going to munch down on these and enjoy them. All right, now we'll get this over on the stove and get this started. It's very full. I wanted to give you an update on the hot sauce that we made the other day. I did actually film the process of making this hot sauce, but unfortunately I had some audio issues, so I wasn't able to share that, but it was very easy. I just took all those peppers that I had fermented. I fermented them for around 7 days. You can go back and check out that video if you want to see how I did that. And then I drained out the fermented liquid and put them in my food processor. Actually, I think I used my blender. Yes, I used my blender because I wanted it nice and smooth. And I added around 1/4 cup of vinegar and a little bit of sugar, a couple of teaspoons of sugar, and blended them up until they were smooth. And this is what I ended up with. So this one is the cayenne hot sauce, the banana pepper and hot wax pepper hot sauce, and the Sugar Rush peach hot sauce. So these are a hit in my house. My family is loving them. The cayenne is definitely the favorite. So what I'm going to do next year is grow way more cayenne peppers and make a ton of this. We're just keeping these in the fridge right now, but what I'll probably end up doing is freezing it, because it freezes really well and it's only going to last in the fridge for, I'm going to guess, probably a month or so. Maybe even a little bit longer, because it was fermented and there is vinegar in there as well. But just to keep on the safe side, I will throw those in the freezer. And yeah, so that was a hit. Very happy with those. So now I'm gonna just clean up this mess so that I can move on to getting these peppers. Oh no, actually, I wanted to show you one other thing first before I do that. The way it is recommended to deal with tomatoes ripening is to put your green tomatoes on a single layer. And the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is you can see them really easily when they're ripening and pull them off and deal with them. And the other is because the weight of the tomatoes on top of each other can put pressure on the ones on the bottom and squish them and cause them to start rotting. All true. Those are all really good reasons to do the single layer method. However, for a lot of us that live in the north that are picking tons of green tomatoes, this time it wasn't actually too bad. I just had these 3 bins here of green tomatoes, but normally I'll have lots and lots and lots of them, and I just don't have enough space in my house to put them in a single layer. So probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I had boxes of tomatoes and they were just all over the place. And I just left them in the boxes. And as they ripened, every day I would go through and pull out the ripened tomatoes. Now this is a little bit of a pain because you kind of have to dig down to the bottom of whatever box or bin that you have them in. But I found that it was doable, and I didn't end up losing very many tomatoes at all to rotting or squishing or anything like that. So what I actually have to do today is go through, pull out all my ripe tomatoes, of which I can see there are tons, and I will be converting these into a simple tomato sauce. I did go through how I make my tomato sauce in my big tomato canning video, where I canned all the tomatoes that I had purchased from a farm about 3 hours south of here. I can't grow enough tomatoes to get us through the entire season with just my one high tunnel, but I can grow quite a few, and it does help to put a dent in the number that I have to purchase, but I still have to purchase some. But anyways, in that video, I walked you through the whole process of doing this. Because I've shown this recently, I won't go through the whole entire process of doing this, but I do have to get through all of these and get these dealt with today. So we will do that together. I'm just gonna bring these over to the sink and get them washed. And I always add a splash of water to the bottom of that so that it doesn't scorch before we get some liquid out of these tomatoes. So these are just going to cook down until all the tomatoes are soft. These peppers all need to be washed as well. So first things first, gotta wash them up. This whole process is super easy. So we're gonna start by taking our seeds out of our peppers. These are so crispy, just beautiful. And cutting them into chunks like this and then running them through our dicer here. I like to use small Ziploc sandwich bag size Ziploc bags to freeze these in so that I have enough in each bag for recipes. That's kind of a standard amount I need for whatever recipe I need. I wouldn't recommend putting these in larger bags. There's a lot of water in them and they just stick together in one big clump. So freeze them in the amount that you actually need. So I'm gonna work my way through all of these peppers. I'll be back with you when I'm all done and show you how many we ended up with these 2 buckets full of peppers. Okay friends, I have made a decision here. So the juice has juiced now. And as you can see, let's see if I can set that up so I don't have to hold that. There we go. The juice is really, really light. I do have some lemon juice already added into here, but it hardly has any pink in it at all. So I've decided to do something different. And that is, I am going to mill all of the fruit or the flesh part that is left in here. And I'm going to add that milled fruit to the syrup that I'm making so that I can have a little bit of this beautiful pink color in it and extract the rest of the juice that's still in here. This is my very old, partially broken food mill. It still works, so we're going with it. Nice pink juice to add in, so hopefully that will make this look a little bit more pink. Oh yes, that did the trick. Perfect. The base recipe for this is 6 cups of watermelon juice to 4 cups of lemon juice and then 6 cups of sugar. This is a triple batch, so I am not going to add that much sugar to this though. I'm just going to add it to taste. So remember, I'm making a concentrate here. So this will be mixed with water to make lemonade. Okay, let's give this a taste. Oh, that's strong. Oh my goodness, but very good. The flavor of it's very good. Very, very strong though, which is what you want in a concentrate. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. And then we are going to get it jarred up and we're going to can it for 10 minutes in my water bath canner. We ended up with a whole bunch of bags of chopped up peppers here. My daughter helped me get these all chopped up. By the time we had done this bowl, we were both kind of done with the peppers. So you can see that I still have some peppers that I need to work through over there. I'm going to save some out to eat fresh over the next couple of weeks, but the rest of those are going to be chopped up just like these ones. And I have all of the hot peppers over here that I'm going to be dehydrating and then making the pepper flakes out of. And I did decide to make some jalapeno poppers over here. So I have 24 jalapenos here. I have some cream cheese and we're going to put these together. I looked up a recipe and these could not be easier. Like I said, I haven't made these before, so I'm looking forward to giving them a try. We need some cream cheese, we need some chives, some garlic powder, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then it does call for breadcrumbs on the top, which I don't have. I guess I could make some. Do I want to make some? So I'm just going to wipe off the counter here and we are going to get to mixing that up. I bought cream cheese with the intention of making some carrot cake, which I still have not done. But at least we have them for this recipe. Some garlic powder. I have some freeze-dried chives here from the garden. I'm going to add a little bit of those. A little pepper. A little cheddar. And then we're going to mix it all together. Okay, so now we need to take out the seeds and the membranes from our jalapenos. I tried to pick the biggest ones that I could find. Oh, I actually wanted to show you guys something. Where are those? This one, and look at these. beautiful jalapenos. Aren't those beautiful? So these ones start out green, then they turn purple, and then they turn red. I just think they're so incredibly beautiful. They're called a purple jalapeno. So I'm going to get all these cut. We're going to get them stuffed with this cream cheese, and then we're going to bake them in the oven until they are all bubbly. Pepper seeds look like, I'm sure you're familiar with them if you've purchased from the grocery store. All you have to do is take those out and let them dry out. Put them into a paper bag. Paper bag works best because it can breathe. That way, just in case there's a little bit of moisture, you don't end up with mold. And plant them the next year. The only thing that I will say is you need to make sure that you are planting or growing only one variety of peppers in your garden. Otherwise, you're going to end up with cross-pollination. On my squash video that I shared last week, which was so fun, it's a video I really love doing each year, but when I did that video, I had a lot of people asking me about cross-pollination and why none of my squash were cross-pollinated. Where you're going to see cross-pollination is the following year when you plant seed out of any plant that has been pollinated by more than one type of plant. So say you have multiple different kinds of squash, you have bees visiting all those squash, they're spreading all that pollen all over the place. The seed that you're going to get from those squash to plant the following year will be cross-pollinated seed. The plants, as they're being visited or as they're being pollinated and they're developing fruit, those fruit are going to breed true to the plant that you planted there. So you don't need to worry about cross-pollination if you're buying seed that have been bred correctly. I did have somebody leave a comment, actually more than one person leave a comment saying that the squash that they grew were cross-pollinated. But the only way that that can happen is from the seed from the previous year, if that plant had been pollinated by multiple different varieties. So I hope that makes sense. I don't think I'm going to have enough of the cheese filling for all of these peppers. So let's just do these ones that I have here and then see if I have enough to do that. If not, I suppose I can pull out another package of cream cheese. So these are supposed to be topped with some breadcrumbs, which I actually don't think I have. I'll have to double check, but I don't think that I have. But I'm sure it'll be fine without them. Oh, my juice over here is boiling. So once we get these all stuffed, I will go and jar up our concentrate. Okay, there we go. Let's pop them in the oven. And come over here and jar up our concentrate. It's looking much more pink. Okay, I'm gonna have another batch to run through, which is awesome. So I'll be back with you as soon as this is out and show you what it looks like along with our jalapeno poppers that are in the oven. I am very excited to share with you our pantry tour this year. We are gearing up for it. We usually do a pantry tour at the end of October. We might do it a little bit earlier this year, depending on when I finish all my canning, but it's gearing up to be a good one. So I can't wait to share that with you. It's one of our favorite videos to make for you every year. I am so happy with the way that this watermelon lemonade concentrate turned out. Way prettier than it was without the extra watermelon in there. And I ended up with 16 pints of that. The poppers over here are surprisingly delicious. I tried one of these poppers and it was so delicious. So I tried another one and I could feel the heat in my mouth, but it wasn't too bad. And I have such a baby mouth, so I was pretty impressed that I was able to eat a jalapeno pepper because I've never been able to before. And I thought maybe all of the dairy was counteracting the heat. And then one of my boys came up who absolutely loves hot stuff, and he popped a whole entire one in his mouth and said that it was blazing hot. His ears were even hot. And I thought that was so weird. So I tried another one, and I put the whole thing in my mouth, and it was so hot, I thought I was going to die. So it turns out that I used some different varieties of jalapeno peppers. I did plant 3 different varieties, and some are hotter than others, and these are all mixed. So you're kind of taking your life into your own hands by trying them. But they're delicious, and I think with a less hot pepper, I would like them even more. So that worked out really well. Between the 16 more jars that I have to go in the pantry, all the bags of peppers that I have to go in the freezer, and these delicious poppers, I feel really good about all the work I got done in the kitchen today. And I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone.